Okay, g'day. My name's Oliver, also known as the Drain Addict on YouTube. This is a micro masterclass in drain cleaning. Today we're going to cover machines, tools, and technique. We'll start with machines because that's probably the most important tool. Besides yourself, you're going to be the most important tool. I want you to know everything I know about clearing a drain that I've learned over the years. So we'll begin with the machines. Glenn knows a little bit more about machines, so I'm going to hand it over to Glenn as we go over to the machines over here in the showroom, and he can take you for a bit of a run through on the different jetters you can use. G'day Glenn.
Hey, how you going, Ollie?
Good mate.
All right, a lot of guys come in with preconceived ideas on what jetters they want for their vehicle. Their mates told them they need this, or they need that, or they need that.
Yep.
I would throw all out the window. Because where it starts is actually your vehicle. So I need to know, before I figure out which machine's going to go on your vehicle, what space you've got, what toolboxes you've got, whether it's a truck, a van, a ute, whether it's a blank canvas. So I usually start there, because what I'm trying to do is get rid of this machine, that machine, and just narrow it down to one or two machines. Pressure and flow doesn't really matter. They're all pretty much sitting in a sweet spot now, what we make.
What is the pressure and flow, if you don't mind me asking, Glenn?
So we've changed over the years. 5,000 at 2021 was pretty common back in the day. Now we're kind of at 5,000 at 24.7 litres per minute. To me, that's the sweet spot, because of the length of hoses that you're using. So you've got 60 metres on the main reel. You use a mini reel, which is 60 metres as well. So by the time you get all the flow to the end of the mini reel, you're going to have a certain amount of flow there. So 5 at 25 is great. What I usually do is I've got a sheet here that I work out what someone wants. So they'll come in, they've got a blank canvas, and then I'll work out, okay, what have we got to play with, you know? Has he got a toolbox full length down the driver's side? Has he got an empty tray? And then what we do is we work out pretty much, okay, this is your measurements. You've got, 530 full length driver's side toolbox. You can have this, you can take this to the edge, we can fit this in. So if I've had a look at your vehicle and I can figure out this is pretty much the setup that you've got, then for me, I know that this is not going to work, this is not going to work, this is not going to work. We can fit this one, or we can fit this one. So for me, it's a way of eliminating everything and just coming down to one or two choices of machine, If we're using the race jet, it's either 5 at 21 with a 690, or it's 5 at 25 with an IGX 800. So that's generally it. It gets a bit trickier if it's a van, or if it's a canopy, or if things like that. Sometimes we might not use a skid mounted machine like that. Sometimes what we'll use is something on like a skid plate like this, and then we'll kind of build the water tank around the outside and the hose reels, and everything will be separate and modular, and then that way we can make it as compact as possible. So that's the aim for us. A lot of the times people want the most toolbox space, so trying to make the machine as compact as possible is what we do. And we're able to do that here because we customise a lot of things, so everything's not straightforward. So yeah, it's probably best if you come in, it's good to know what you want, and then that can be like a baseline, and then show us what vehicle you've got, and then we'll just work together and try and figure it out from there to get the best setup for you.
Beautiful.
Because it's not all about pressure and flow, it's also about usability. You really want to enjoy using your machine. You want to make sure you can wind the hoses up, straight back, you can reach your controls, all these airflow in, exhaust out. All these things are like a little bit overlooked sometimes, and once you get it right, you'll look at an install and you go, okay, this is sweet. So that's what we specialise in. We've been doing it for a long time, and I think we're pretty good at it now.
So not all jetters are the same, really. Although the jetters are the same, but the setup is all bespoke, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So a lot of the pump motor groups, so engine, pump and drive line, whether it be remote control.
So this is the pump, Glenn?
That's the pump.
It's a fairly simple setup, really.
Yep.
You've got the pump, you've got the gearbox, and you've got the engine.
So this is a belt reduction with the clutch, with the remote control, like what you've got.
And it never used to be belt.
It used to be gearbox, so I'm sure we have a machine here that is gearbox drive. So if you have a look at this machine, we have a gearbox in here. So it's about a 2-to-1 reduction gearbox. So, and if you look at the pump will tell you what speed the pump needs to spin at. So this one spins at 1450. So if the engine's spinning at double that, so that'll reduce the pump speed to spin at a slower speed.
And the gearbox, that's old technology.
Yeah, it is old technology. It's 2 gears and some oil inside that's just giving you, if you spin this engine at the right speed, the pump will spin at this speed.
And the belt, if you can give us a look at a belt, that'd be good, please, Glenn, because this is the new improved version with the belt.
So the belt is kind of still working on the same concept.
There's the belt.
You have a big gear and a little gear, but it's using a tooth timing belt like what you would find on a car.
Yep.
But the bigger side has a magnetic, electromagnetic clutch inside, so it can actually engage and disengage the pump.
Right.
So that's
and it gives you more horsepower, is that correct, with the belt, slightly?
It does give you a little bit more horsepower driving a belt compared to a gearbox.
Okay.
But the biggest advantage of running this for us is the ability to connect and disconnect the pump when you're using it via the remote, and also with the injected engine and the computer to actually increase and drop the revs as well. So.
And when you say remote, this is also a new technology which they've introduced, which is the Panther, which I think is the only version I've ever seen where it's remote and the revs actually stop after you let off the revs and it goes back to idle.
We've had different remotes in the past. Like I've been here 9.5 years. We started with the garage door opener remote, and that was just starting and stopping the engine at full revs. So nozzle in the drain, under load, turning the engine off, full revs, and then there would be a delay, because when you turn an engine off on full revs, you end up with a lot of sort of fuel and air mixture in your muffler. So if you just start your engine, and it's a very hot muffler too, so you just start the engine again and you'll get big backfires. So there was a bit of a delay for the restart. That was quite dangerous because you could be sitting on your remote and start your engine when it's in the back of your car. So then we went to an Ortec remote, which is a lot bigger than this one, with an emergency stop button on the top. I wasn't really a fan of that because you had to put in a special code to get it activated, and then it was still the same thing, start and stop, full revs, that was it. But with this one, you can activate the remote and you can start the engine and you can actually go pressure on and pressure off, which kind of makes this remote, while the engine's still running too, which makes this remote turn into like the main ball valve or the mini reel ball valve. So this is the future pretty much, and I think next year pretty much nearly all the machines that we sell will be with the Panther and the Panther remote setup.
Beautiful. All right, that's pretty much Jetta's covered. Did we cover the PSI, the flow rate?
Well, the flow rate, it depends on the engine that's being used. Majority of the engines that we're using now are the Honda IGX 800 fuel injected. Back in the day we were using GX 630s and GX 690s. So we were getting pressures 4,300 at 20.8, 5,000 at 20.2. With a
that's litres per minute you're talking?
Litres per minute, yeah.
Because they're used to the gallons in America.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm in Australia, so I'm talking litres per minute.
Do you know the conversion? No.
I do.
Yeah?
I do. So, because sometimes we do deal with people overseas, I have a nozzle chart, and I also have a gallons per minute to litres per minute chart. So
yeah, beautiful.
If you want to have a look at that, so if we're looking at say around 21 to 26,
let's look at whatever you use.
6 to 7 gallons per minute we're talking.
Which is around about what you guys have got for your machines, 26 litres a minute?
6 or 7, yeah. So we'd say 6 or 7 gallons per minute at 5,000 PSI.
Okay, there you go. There's the chart, guys, if you ever want to see the chart from gallons to litres.
Yep, and there's also a nozzle chart there which shows what size nozzle is used depending on the flow that you have, which is we won't cover that now because that's quite,
Well, you've got the chart there. You can always pause it and look at the chart.
Yeah.
later. Crocky. All right. Reels. So we've got a 3/8 hose here on the main reel. That's red flex. It's not top shelf, but it still does the job. Double stacker.
3/4 feet.
Depending, once again, it's all bespoke. However you want to set it up in your van, you'll match it to your ute or van, truck, bus, whatever you're putting in the back of. You've even got them in stainless steel. What's this thing we're looking at here, Glenn?
So this is a venturi pump. So it's kind of like a vacuum cleaner that works off your jetter. So it's a big anaconda pretty much. You've got 6 meters of hose in here that'll connect to the pump. And then you've got another 6 of lay
When you
flat.
say connect to the pump, you mean connect to the jetter. So the actual jetting hose will go onto this and it will act as the pump. Your machine will be the pump.
So let's show you.
Is that right?
Take this way out. That's the pump in there.
Yes.
So your jetting main reel goes onto there. Quick release is on. What that does is it goes down underneath and it does a U-turn. And then inside there we have a nozzle that's spec'd off that nozzle chart to suit the machine.
Okay.
And that is a pencil jet, I believe. And we've put in some side plates there just to stop big rocks and things from jamming this up. So that goes down the drain, down the hole,
Yep.
or wherever
Yep.
wherever you're trying to get the water out from.
Yep.
And then we'll connect this one onto the top,
So this is all about pumping water out of
pumping water.
a pit, a hole,
Sludge.
a manhole, whatever.
So that then you send that wherever you need to send it, and put your hose on there, open your ball valve, or press your pressure on your remote, and that'll suck out.
So you put your jetting hose on the end of that, is that right, Glenn?
That's
Just
right.
there, connect it onto there, turn it on. Your water will come out of your van or ute, run through there, and it'll suck. It'll create a vortex which sucks it out all together.
Yeah, it's called a venturi pump, so it'll actually create a venturi to suck at about 170 litres per minute, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah, so these things are awesome.
that's a pretty handy tool.
Never hear a bad word about them. And then we've created the cage for it just so that when you pack it all up, it's all nice and slim and you're not dripping everything through someone's house as you carry it out as well. So yeah, it's good. The venturi pumps are really good.
Okay.
Sometimes the capacity of your vacuum cleaner is not enough, so yeah, you can just keep sucking out. If you've got a whole basement that's flooded, you could just run it and just pump the whole basement out, you know. So they're great.
Yeah, lift shafts, you name it.
Yeah.
Whatever's piling up water. All right, we turn around to the back wall here. We have a selection of hoses. My favourite, hoses. Not all hoses are equal. Ain't that right, Glenn?
Not all equal.
We've got 3/16,
Yeah,
we've got quarter, and we've got 3/8.
3/8 down the bottom. And,
We'll start-
we have 5/16.
5/16. Okay, not
So-
familiar with 5/16. Tell us about 5/16.
So 3/16, if you're after a lot of flexibility getting through drains and so on, it's going to reduce the flow at the end of your mini reel. Depending on the flow of your machine, 1/4 inch is generally what we're using now. But the best option is having 2 mini reels like you do with 3/16 and 1/4 inch. You'll find out which one you're going to use more. We used to run on the larger flow machines 3/8 on the main reel hose, but now we've been running 5/16, which is, you can see 5/16 is in between 3/8 and 1/4. So it still gives you the flow, but it gives you a lot more flexibility and it gives you a lot more usability. So I'm a fan of 5/16 now. I think it's really good because 3/8, I know you love 3/8, but 3/8 tends to kink quite easy, and once it kinks, it weakens the hose. So, you know, it's all about, you know, enjoying using your machine.
So even I'm behind times. I don't keep up. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. But as you heard, Heard it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, but the same thing with the 3/4 hose and the 1/2-inch hose. You used to be a fan of the 1/2-inch hose.
Yeah, because of distance, yes.
Yep, and then finally, Matty tried to talk you into the 3/4, and you kind of didn't
finally
listen.
came around, yep.
No, it wasn't until I suggested it that you said, all right, you know what, the machine, you already got it on there, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
And you were thinking that you're not going to have enough hose, I think was the main issue.
Yeah, I haven't really had a problem, Glenn, since. You can see the size of this hose. That's the hose that you put on the tap, the garden tap, to fill up. And the problem with, there's no problem with it, but the issue you find is that you never run out of water because of the
3/4
diameter.
Yeah, so you've got 35 metres on that. I mean, I know you used to probably have a little bit more, but if you're really concerned, you can always have an extra 20 metres rolled up, hooked in the van for those emergencies. Or if the customer's got a tap there, you can always use that. But because of trying to make machines smaller and narrower, the water tank size sometimes has to suffer. So having 3/4 is kind of going to compensate that and make sure that you've got enough. And what we do is we use these gardenia fittings here. So rather than that being a big fitting, we use just the standard tap fitting. Because sometimes guys will come in with a ute and they've got the big fitting on, and then you got to walk over, change the fitting on the tap to a bigger fitting to plug it in. We just use a standard fitting here, so you don't have to. It's just one less step.
When you mean standard, you're talking about the insert. So that's the same insert that you'd use on any garden tap.
That's
this
right.
is larger here for the larger hose.
Exactly.
But that's the same connector there.
So that one there, that's your standard tap fitting that you're going to find in Australia pretty much on all taps. So that's a 1/2-inch fitting, just connects straight in. So because we're using the bigger hose, we still run a reducer there so that it'll still connect into it. Because you don't want to be changing this fitting on customer's tap all the time. You just want to be able to pull it in, click it in, go start your machine and get it happening, you know. You want to be able to do as much as you can in a day. So, yep, so that's that.
Beautiful. Another quick thing we're going to touch on, Glenn, is the color code. Obviously the grey is for premium. The only difference between the grey, the red and the black is what?
So it's the price and the outer casing. So the hoses are made up of a material braid, an inner core and an outer core. So on the platinum hose, the outer core is the strongest that you can get. That's still quite flexible. And once you get in the sun for a while, you'll kind of increase the flexibility of this hose. So with a decent jetting hose, you really want good external abrasion so that it's not catching on, you know, gullies and things and nicking hose. So this one is the strongest. Get probably the best reviews out of the platinum hose. The red hose is what we use on our machines. The red is still, it's probably a little bit more flexible, the red. But what I've found over in the Aussie sun, yeah, it does, the pigmentation in the red does tend to turn yellow on the first couple of rolls. But there's nothing wrong with the red, just the platinum if you want the best, then you go to platinum. And the black is just a cheaper version that's pretty much exactly the same as the red that we've brought in just to suit a market of guys who don't want to spend that much replacing a hose. So, and you're not going to get the yellowing in the black hose as well. So either way, black or red's fine, but you know, you may as well go black if you want to save some money, spend it more on nozzles or whatever.
And then with the sizes, obviously the larger size, like 3/8, it's going to have more pressure, more flow rate, you're going to cut better.
Well, pressure is going to be the same, so it's going to be flow at the nozzle and I guess pressure at the nozzle as well. So if you've got a machine with a lot of flow, then you need to have bigger hoses to get the flow to the nozzle. So, but like it all depends on what flow you've got to start with. You know, if you've got 45 litres per minute, then obviously you either want to have 3/8 or 1/2-inch hose.
And is there a sweet spot with the flow rate? I think you found it, haven't you?
I think so, yeah. I think the 5,000, because you need the pressure to push the flow to the end of the mini reel. So with 5/16 and 1/4-inch, 5,000 at 24.7, you're getting at the end of the mini reel here, you're getting about 20.5 litres per minute. So if you want any more water there, you actually kind of need to increase the pressure higher than 5. But once you do that, your hoses are rated at 5.1. So you're taking your machines out of their pressure rating. It means we have to change everything then. So one day that might happen, But you know, do you need more than 5,000 psi to clear drains and chop roots out? You know, maybe it will be better, but we haven't got to that stage yet. So.
All right, now I guess we're going to move on to the kangaroo. What have we got here, Glenn? We got the gurney.
These are just,
as we call it in Australia.
They're mainly pressure cleaning accessories. Some guys love a gun, you know, so that's just a gun. You can put nozzles on the end or whatever, like pressure cleaning nozzles, not cleaning nozzles, or turbos or whatever. Clean your driveway, clean your car, whatever. Sometimes that little bend, the bend is actually more for ergonomics. So when you're standing there cleaning, you've got a straight back and you're cleaning flat onto the ground. If you're going to use it for drain cleaning, we'll probably go through that shortly, where you have a straight lance and you have
we'll show
an angled piece.
Yes. And I see you got some oil over here. You got the good oil. Give us the good oil, mate.
Okay, so a lot of the time when someone buys a Jetta, for example, and then they go to start it, sometimes they've left the emergency stop button in.
Yes, I've been there.
Yep. So and then the Jetta doesn't start. So what the plumber will do goes, okay, Jetta doesn't start. It needs some oil. So which is a mistake. It doesn't. Some majority of the time it doesn't need oil.
But
so
we try everything.
What they'll do is they'll go, I need some oil, and then I'll just pour some oil in here and pour some oil in here, and now it still doesn't start, but now I've got more oil in the engine than it needs to.
But it's not your average oil. This is a specialised oil for jetting engines.
Well, this is 10W30 for the engine.
10W30, remember that?
Yep, and then it's 75W90 non-foaming gear oil for the pump and for the gearbox if you had one. 75W,
but just, I got that correct?
I would say don't put oil in your engine. Leave that to the guys who are servicing it, because a lot of the time you're going to overfill your engine, and that's going to...
And you'll know you've overflowed it because it's going to start spewing out black smoke. Is that correct, if it's too overfull?
No, what it will do is there's more oil in the crankcase, so it's going to put more stress on things to leak oil. Because the engines are designed to have a certain amount of oil. If you pull the dipstick on the engine,
yes,
you can see you have a dot for the full mark and you have a dot for the low mark. Okay. So you can see our oil level there is right on the full mark, and you can see the oil is very clean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if we went and pulled the dipstick on your engine, we could nearly get another $434 out of you.
Texas tea, black gold.
Well, do you want to go and have a look? So,
no. Let's not. Let's pretend that mine's as clear as this.
Okay, but it won't be. It won't definitely.
Well, let's hope it is.
Just purely have a look, just for you know what
see
an
the
engine.
difference.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Okay. And how long does it take for the discoloration to occur?
So, like, I'll tell someone when they have a Jetta, do your first service at 50 hours. There's an hour meter on the machine, so that'll tell you 50 hours. You bring it back in, we can get that original oil out of the engine, which is kind of like a bit of a cutting oil as well. Your engine's kind of wearing in, it's only new. So we want to get that oil out, get some fresh oil in, check everything over.
Oh yeah, look at the colour difference.
Okay, so look.
Now that's the colour you want.
No, that's the colour of money. It means that you've done a lot of jobs. But see, your oil level is not spot on the full mark.
Well, you better fill her up, Glenn.
Yeah, well, we could do that before we finish. But so now you can see that oil colour is like, you want oil to be this colour because you know oil's doing the job when it's actually this colour. Because you don't want it to still be clear. You know, the Jetta's really done nothing, you know. Or the oil's not doing its job, so... So yeah, what I was going back to is don't put oil in it, get it serviced. So first service is 50 hours, and then I would probably do once a year after that. And then that way you're keeping on top of your maintenance for everything.
Once a year service, you're saying?
I would say, yeah.
Really?
Like if you're doing 6 drains a day, you could probably do twice a year.
Okay.
You know, but
they're pretty hardy, these Hondas, eh?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Like, so they have 2 sensors in them. They have a low oil level sensor, and then they have a low oil pressure sensor. So if you're on the wrong angle, or if your Jetta's got really low oil, the Jetta won't start, you know. So it's kind of...
Or if you're on a hill, eh?
Sometimes, yeah. So
I've had that.
This one has the 2 sensors. The Vanguard's only had the oil pressure, so they would still start on a bad angle. So, which is
really
not good for the engine. So
yeah.
So,
And then you've also got the oil in here, Glenn, which is the
That's right.
gearbox.
so this is
Or the pump?
So that's the pump, and it has a sight glass. They used to have two sight glasses, so you have one on the end,
Yes.
which is halfway.
Yes.
But that's not the same oil that goes in here. That's 75/90, and every pump manufacturer might specify a different oil. And they used to have a sight glass in here as well, which was really unnecessary, and they were leaking a lot of the time. So we've spoken to Bertolini, and we've got them to replace this with an end plate.
Now,
So-
Bertolini sounds Italian to me.
It
Would I
is-
be correct in my...
You would be very correct.
yes?
Yes, Bertolini is Italian. So I don't know what actually happened, but the sight glasses in the end cap sometimes were popping out, sometimes were leaking, and I'm like, we really need to get rid of this and just have a blanking plate there, because a lot of the time you can't even see this sight glass anyway. This is the one you're looking at.
Okay.
And they came to the party eventually, and now we're changing these out on new pumps just for blanking plates. So yeah.
And this thing here, Glenn, with the funny looking aerial, what is that, mate?
You've got one of these remote control machines that you
Yes,
never use.
yes,
So
Yes.
that's the receiver box. So
Okay.
that one is going to actually connect these two together so that you can use the remote.
And as long as you're within range, it'll pick it up, and then you can turn it on and off without having to come back to the engine and do your thing.
Exactly, yeah. And the engine's going to rev up, rev down. It's going to do everything that it needs to do. So if you want to use a remote, just flick that up. If you don't want to use a remote, you just flick that down and you just use it as a normal jetter. So
Okay. And this little hose doobie thing here,
that's your water tank on this
Yep.
machine. So
it's not a big tank, but it
It's-
doesn't have to be.
it's actually bigger than a lot of them.
Really?
So, yeah, it is. So
Okay.
I think it's about 48 litres, that one. So that's
So it's
just
close to the keg jet, but it's not quite, which is 60 litres, the keg jet, yeah?
about 55 usable. So it's just a little bit under the keg jet.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was
but-
much smaller, but there you go.
So, but this one is good because we have this little flick hose that you can actually drain the tank. So,
And you can just wash your hands or whatever at any time you want.
yep, there you go. Or you don't have to. You can lose 48 kilos of your vehicle weight when you're driving around. If you
Yeah, I
want
think
to.
a lot of people do that. They empty their bladder before they go on a long trip.
But I think you're doing enough drains a day where you just leave it full. You've got enough to wash your hands. You're ready to go for the next job. What else do you want to go through?
Cameras, please, Glenn. Let's go to the camera section.
Cameras. All right.
You guys will be familiar with this camera because you see it every day. This is a German camera. Equip, as they were used to be named, are no longer Equip. They supply them from Germany. These are good because they've got a twin reel. You got a smaller camera that comes out for 2-inch lines, up to 4-inch, even 6-inch if you want. And then you've also got the larger camera, which has got better LED, better rigidity, so you can push a lot further because it's all about getting to that distance a lot of the time. And if you can't get to the problem with the camera, it's a real pain. That's just one of many cameras you can get. The cameras these days, a lot of them are coming from China. They actually make really good cameras from China for a really good price. And if I was just starting out, I'd get myself a Chinese camera. I'll give you an example of some Chinese cameras just over here.
We've been bringing these in for a while now. You've probably seen them everywhere. We've sold heaps of them. We've got 2 versions of them. So we've got the small one. We don't sell that many small ones, but they are pretty good. Like this is 30 meters, 18mm camera head. The picture quality is really good. It's not self-leveling, this one, but it does have a sonde in the head. So you can see the picture quality is like it's an up-close picture.
Glenn, there's nothing worse than a camera that doesn't self-level.
I know.
My pet hate.
Yeah, I don't like it either, but you know, like sometimes...
Personally, I would always go for a self-leveling head. Otherwise, you're going to move your head sideways all the way, trying to work out where up is and down is.
Okay, so then you're buying this one then. So this one is self-leveling. So 23mm camera head. You can see the picture quality is up close.
Another biggie.
You can see those hard-working hands.
Oh, look at the callus on that.
Yeah, that's hard-working hands, mate. That's what you want. LEDs is all pretty standard on the camera heads. You got some guides and stuff under the keyboard. I don't know how many guys are going to use the keyboard, but you got mains charging, 12 volt
straight
charging.
to the
The mains,
PowerPoint.
mains or 12 volt.
or to the cigarette lighter in the vehicle.
Yep, and then you got two camera head guides that will sit on there and keep the camera head up off the bottom a little bit.
Yep.
And then when the camera head guide's on, that just kind of sits into there.
Okay, and it's I can sort of tell by looking at the size of the cable, the fibre optic cable there. That would be 7 mil, and this is 5 mil.
You're pretty good, 6.8 and 4.8.
Well, I'm a couple of mil off. Couple of mil off.
Mate, engineering mind.
Okay, so we're gonna go from the Chinese. We're gonna go to the American, which is Ridgid. Ridgid make excellent tools.
Pricey, but really good.
Yep.
So, yeah, sometimes
If I was going to trust my workmen to work on anything, I'd give them a Ridgid Sea Snake. This is, what do you call them? They're the mini cams?
So that one's the APX and the micro reel, and we've got the nano reel. So just different sizes, different lengths and all that. Some of them are, I don't think any of these are self-leveling.
So this is micro. You see
That's
that little
nano,
thing?
that one.
Nano, sorry. Nano, and then micro.
Yep, and then that's the APX, which is the new version of the micro reel. It's just got a couple of extra features.
Beautiful little machines.
The main camera that we do sell in the Ridgid range is this guy.
Yep.
Like everyone's probably seen one of these.
And that's the mini reel Sea Snake.
They call it a mini sea snake. It's 61 meters.
Yep.
Self-leveling, and it has true sense in the head. So when you're in the drain, it will kind of tell you like the incline, whether it's up or down on the screen.
Okay.
So which is kind of handy if you're trying to figure out if the drain's got the right fall.
Yep.
They do the bigger cameras as well. So the bigger cameras being
Sea Snake?
Sea Snake. So they come with the wheels, and then this one you've either got, there's a 99 metre and a 61 metre. So the push
In
rod,
length.
So the push rod thickness is thicker to push further.
Yep.
And also your camera head and spring is.
And what would you use? What sort of situation would you use that in? That would be more mains.
Straight runs, long distances.
Yep.
But I also found that like we have this nozzle that you can attach to these cameras. So this one, and this one, and this one. So you can actually jet the camera down, because if you've got the assistance of your jet to get your camera where you need to go, then you don't need to have such a big push rod, you know. And then if you've got a smaller push rod, you can just take the jetting attachment off, and then you still have the flexibility. So it's always good to have.
So you're saying you jet camera heads with the jet at the same time?
Yeah, so we have a nozzle called the jetpack nozzle, which is this guy here. So we make
This is a good segue.
So we
Show
make
them the nozzles.
So we make that in 3 different sizes to suit either budget camera, mini sea snake, or standard sea snake. And then that will actually, the 2 Allen keys come undone, and that kind of sits basically in there.
No way. Where have I been all this time, mate? I didn't know about this head.
And then you have 2 rear jets at 15 degrees, so they're well away from the camera head, and you put the guide on to keep it centered in the drain. It does mean that you've got to send the mini reel down as well, but you might get to a point where you can only push this at 15 meters, and then the fiberglass cable starts to snake up, and you feel.
So when would you break this contraption out and use it? Because of the distance, you're not able to push the rigidity.
Bends. So
too many bends.
If you go 5 bends and then you're like, I'm going to break this cable.
Yep.
Then I'd pull it back out, chuck that on, send it down again. But when I send it down again with the mini reel, I wouldn't just open and go full blast. I would kind of just crack it, you know, and just watch on the screen, and then you're going to pass 15 meters, and then you're just going to keep going to wherever you need to go. So like you might get 25 meters. Well, you're not going to get more than 35 on this one. On this one, you'll get 60. Well, you might, you know, but it's going to get you further than you could by pushing. You know, that's the idea of this. And
where would you position the jetter?
So that's the curve on that is the same as the curve on that. So they sit,
and you'd want to hope that this is going to find its way around the bends and continue on forward.
That will use the skid. So one of the skids.
You have the skid on at the same time.
The skid 100% goes on the front.
Okay.
The 2 jets are coming backwards. Nothing's interfering with the camera head, so you can still see what's going on. And yeah, that's been a bit of a game changer for guys using cameras. You know, guys used to they'll tape on a root ranger to one of these.
Yeah, that's the way I usually do it.
So I mean, you can do that.
That's old school.
Mate, just do whatever works, you know. But
No, I think this is a much better way.
We came up with things.
How much is one of these, Glenn?
I think it's about 380 Australian.
That's
plus.
cheap, eh?
Well, you know, that's
cheap if you're a millionaire.
It's cheap if you're a plumber. Yeah, so that's the main cameras. They've got the RM200, which is you know, got wheels and a fold-up handle, you know.
And what's the difference between the RM100 or 200?
I don't sell the RM200 too much because of the push rod size. You kind of, some guys like it, but if you have a look at the camera head and the
it's pretty flexible. This is a new technology. This fibre optics.
I don't like it.
No.
So see the.
Why don't you like it, Glenn?
Well, so see that's the standard mini sea snake that everyone's using, and that's the RM200. So it's thinner.
Yeah.
And it's like a cheaper cable.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it might be better for going around bends and things like that, but being a cheaper cable, I reckon you're better off with this one. To be honest. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I just sort of, you know.
An honest review.
If you're going to spend the money, just, you know, it's not that much more to buy just this one that everyone's using. So, but I mean, I've seen guys who have that and they're happy with it. I guess owner operators always look after their stuff better than workers do. You know, I mean, it is handy that it's on wheels and it has a fold-up handle, so you're carrying the mini reel in one hand, you're wheeling that in the other. Yep. That's kind of handy.
And if you were just starting out, Glenn, what would you recommend as a starter?
Well, it depends, you know. If you're financing your ute, your toolboxes, your Jetta, everything.
If you don't have a lot of money in your hip pocket and you're just starting out and you're just trying to find clientele.
That one for sure.
Okay, start with the Chinese.
Start with that. At least it's $3.5 plus GST.
Otherwise, you're stepping right up to...
Nearly 20 grand now, actually.
For a camera?
For a Ridgid. So most guys who buy the Ridgid will buy that one. They'll buy that monitor and they'll buy that locator. So those.
Oh, locators.
Yep. So
that's my locator, Glenn.
Sure is. So if you just want to find the camera head, you know, that and that, that's pretty much the main thing that most guys will buy. If you're just starting out and you're on a budget, that one and that one.
Okay.
Yep. So
and this is the Ridgid Scout, and this is called the Ridgid
SR20. That one. So SR20, I would probably go this one. If you kind of just go, yep, I want a better locator. If you're going to do line tracing, induction stuff.
Line tracing, you mean tracing what?
Okay, so they use these. This is a 5-watt transmitter. So you can hook it to copper pipes and things like that to actually induce a current down there, which is then picking up from the locator.
Okay.
So if you're trying to mark out to make sure you're not digging through something, or if you're trying to find a leak in a pipe and you want to know where it goes, you can either use that. You can either induce.
So it doesn't just find the sonde of the camera, but you can also trace.
They both will do it. So the Scout will do it as well. This will just definitely do it better. And this has a lot more frequencies because of the side things as well. It'll help you stay on where you're going. Whereas
and it also points, from what I hear, an arrow telling you which direction to go and find your sonde, doesn't it?
Kind of nearly shows you the pipe and shows you, yep, you're on it and you're going in.
And the price difference?
Probably close to double.
Double.
Yeah.
Double trouble.
Yeah.
So what are we talking?
If you're going to
$2 grand?
No, nowhere near. I think that's closer to
$3 grand.
$3 grand. Now.
And so you're saying that's like $6 grand, that thing?
I think it's 4.7.
Okay.
I can't remember because I don't
Still
sell
pricey.
that many. But guys who want to do line tracing, like there's a 5-watt and a 10-watt transmitter. We mainly sell the 5-watt, but if you were going to get serious about it, we'd probably sell one 10-watt a year. And then you've got your induction clamp, so if you're trying to find wiring and that, you can hook that around a power source or whatever, it'll induce it into there.
Okay, that's also from Ridgid. And what's that little camera next to you there?
So that little camera is the
a little look-see.
CA350. It comes with a little, let's have a quick little look. But it also can hook up to either one of these guys, and it will sit up on top of the handle if it has the spot for it.
Really? Okay,
but
that's pretty cool.
Your picture quality is not really the best. The advantage of that is it's kind of a one-thing carry-all. You can also run that monitor with these as well. As long as you've got the right adapters for it. So that's the right adapter for diverser, and then there's a different adapter that kind of hooks that into the back. Okay. So you can see the picture quality of that. You know, it's okay. It's not
It'll
the
get
best.
you out of trouble.
Yeah.
So you can see what's going on. How much are they?
Lucky there's a price tag, $8.90 plus GST.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. While we're here, I've noticed we've got the old, or should I say young. They haven't been out for long, maybe a year or two. These are excellent tools. I wouldn't go to a job without having one of these on board now. I don't have the smaller range, which is the K912 flex shaft with the little chain knockers. Then we step up to the K9102, which is what I'm used to using. I've actually got both the 102 and the 204 with a 6-inch cutter on there by the look of it. These are excellent tools. These are what I personally use for clearing kitchen sinks in units upstairs so that you don't have to do any jetting. Send this through, 2-inch line, and the chain knocker goes around and around, cuts out all the grease. You can also use them for cutting roots, but they're not designed for cutting roots, and they can get caught up. And when these things buckle and snap, it's expensive to replace the cable. I don't know how many cables I've replaced here, maybe 10, 20. And each time you replace a cable, what are we looking at? How much for a cable, Glenn?
Can't remember.
I'm guessing it's around about the $700 mark.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing with these is guys are using them forward and reverse. So they're designed to go forwards only, and a light clutch setting. So
when you say clutch setting,
so on your drill, you've got a drill.
yes.
You go to the drill.
Well, we can use it on this one, for example.
Oh, here we go. So you've got clutch settings on your drill. So if you crank that all the way up to maximum, 21,
Yep.
when that catches, the drill's not going to let go. It's going to...
That's when you're going to do damage.
That's right. So you want to have it on a really light clutch setting. So
what's optimal clutch setting for this, Glenn?
Well, you probably want to figure that out for yourself, you know, because I would probably start maybe on 3 and go from there, you know, and I wouldn't go up too far. And if it's going in and it's sort of caught some way, it's going to trip the clutch on the drill, not break or twist the cable on this end or on the other end.
Okay.
We do see a lot of these come in for repair, and forwards only, not, you know, flat out forwards, flat out reverse. Like the cables are spun a specific way, so if you're going in reverse, you're kind of going against the way the cable's spun. So yeah, that's probably the biggest tip for these guys. Light clutch setting, forwards only, you know. And feel what's going on in there, you know.
Looking at the nozzle tip here, you'll notice I've just got the little cutter just on the end like that. I've found that, well, we'll have a look in here actually, in the little box of goodies, Glenn. Big. I'm going to use the chain knocker, which will go like that. It'll spin around at that distance and cut out the grease. But every now and then you're going to go through a really small pipe, like a 30 mil or a 40 mil, and nothing will get there except for just this little head. And that's all you need to penetrate and drag back the hair or whatever it is that's blocking through there. So you're going to use these both as much as one another. They're both very, very handy. Without these, I wouldn't be able to clear 100% of the drains. It's thanks to these little specimens that you can actually get the job done.
Well, if you don't want to do damage.
Yeah, I've never used anything other than the tungsten, but I guess the chains do work. From what I hear, chains work, but I just like that extra cutting power where you've got these little sharp tungsten carbide sharpened bits on the end. It just looks better and feels better as it's going through doing its thing. But if pipes are old and they've been sitting in there for a long time, they can theoretically damage the pipe if they're flicking around. But if they're old, the pipes that is, it's not the fault of these tools. It's just one of the things that may just happen, and you may have a bit of a flood, and it might flood downstairs and flood out a unit, but that goes with the territory. So that's the flex shaft, that's the drill, they're the gears. They're an excellent tool. I wouldn't go to a job without one of them. All right. So similar to the flex shaft family, this is the older brother of the flex shaft. This is also made by Ridgid. This thing, it's like a drill with a drum. This is what the drum looks like inside. Now, these are not made equal either. These are there you go. What are these called, Glenn?
Cables.
These cables are not made equal. When I say they're not made equal, this one is not made equal because it doesn't have inner core. I don't really use anything that doesn't have an inner core because it can snap and it can be left off inside, and it's easier to kink, and once it kinks it's just flying all over the joint. So always have a cable that has inner core. That's why this one's still brand new in the drum, because I wouldn't use it, it doesn't have inner core. So with these Ridgids, it's pretty simple. That's giving it the power to move through. That's to lock it up, that's the brake. For it to start to go out, the hose or the cable, you press this in and you trigger at the same time and it just comes out automatically. And then if you want to bring it back, you press this one in and then it reverses it in. Quite a simple process. It's just the contours of the cable. This presses in, one makes it go forward as it pushes in, the other one makes it go on reverse. That's the K45. Excellent little piece of kit. I have to say it's not as good as the flex shaft, but that's technology, it always gets better, eh? These tools here are also, you know, indispensable. The old towel, the old shirt, whatever you can get your hands on, because there's going to be a lot of flooding. You're going to soak up water. Water is our enemy, especially with wooden floors and angry customers. Boots. These ones that I wear, Spicker, they're a hunting boot. They're waterproof, they're just a gum boot really. Then you've got the old Muck Master. These are an American brand. I think they use them on the farms in America, feeding the pigs, whatever they do on the farms. They're also very good. And then you go up, these are Olivers.
Olivers.
Yeah, these are for fireman. They're about $400 or $500. They're made of leather, but they're also waterproof, as well as steel cap. They're a really good boot, especially for winter time. Now, Glenn, I've spent many a year in the elements trying to stay dry. And in my line of work, it's hard to stay dry, especially when it's raining and you're jetting at the same time. I've tried Gore-Tex, all sorts of Gore-Tex, top shelf down to whatever. Gore-Tex doesn't work after a while. You have to wash it, you have to put a special spray over them. They're annoying. That's until I came across fisherman's gear. These are from Sweden. They're Grundens. These are what they say they are on the packet, 100% waterproof. They do get hot because they're rubber.
It's not that heavy either.
It's like PVC. It's not. This one's not heavy. I've got a heavier salt in the car. But these are brilliant because they keep you dry. They actually keep you dry. And that's what you want to be, is dry, because nothing worse than being wet all day.
So what's the brand again?
Grundens. Fisherman's gear. Same with these pants. These will go over your pants like that. They'll also keep you dry. 100% waterproof. These, we all know what these are. These are what I should probably wear every day. You want to protect your knees. Put them on, doesn't take long. Just wear them. Okay, moving on, Glenn. The world's largest screwdriver. This I use daily. Open up manholes, wedging in, lifting, leverage. These are brilliant. Then you've got the everyday run-of-the-mill plunger, extensions, screws in there. This is the shark hook. That's for pretty much doing what it says it does. Hooking out things, you've got to make one of them yourself. No one sells shark hooks on the end of a, what are these called, Glenn?
Fiberglass connecting rods.
Rod. These are rods. That's just like a corkscrew. That's going to go in and grab the roots. You're going to spin it around. It's going to catch them a bit more, pull them out in one piece. Then you've got the old fisherman's spear. You've got an extension if it's a really deep shaft. And then if you need to get it through the Coke can or whatever that might be stuck in there, you can give it extra power without that thing snapping off. I don't use that thing very often, as you can see.
Oh, well, now we know that needs a service.
A service, yeah, come and see you, Glenn.
No, I don't do rubber straps here.
Anyway, that's worth its weight in gold. Then you've got the other plunger on the other rod, but this rod is metal. I wouldn't use anything other than metal to plunge because it's just got the oomph that you need to clear blockage with. You've got the extension in case it's a really deep shaft. Once again, you just screw it in like so. You got the handle on the end, which you'll need because sometimes you need to get right on top of it like that, and then bring yourself down and use your weight to push down, up and down until it goes whoosh. This thing here, it looks like a snake catcher, and it sort of is a snake catcher, except it's catching the snake of your jetting hose on the neck as it goes around. I'll give you a little example of how this thing works. There's also a handle there to work it. If we come over here, Glenn, I'll show them. Okay, so this is an overflow relief gully. It's very tight as it gets around here. It's a 90. And the further you go down, the harder it is to pull out. Sometimes you don't have a choice, that's your only access, you have to go through there. That's ideal, because you can take off the cap. Easy. Go to wherever you want to go from there. here, not so easy. You get around to here, then you've got another 90, you've got to negotiate, and the further you go down, the harder it is to pull out, because you're pulling against here, you're pulling against here, and there if you get that far. And you'll be pulling and pulling and pulling, you can't get it out. There's only one way to get it out, and this isn't 100% either. What you need to do, as you pull it, you get the little snake strangler. You'll push it down here. You'll feel it as you push down. Glenn, if you have a look there, we got the snake by its neck. So what you'll do at the same time is you'll push and you'll pull. So I'm pulling here as well as pushing at the same time. And sometimes you'll have to flick it a couple of times, keep going as you're pulling, and you'll get it out. So this thing is necessary if you're working on tight bends. It just is, it's necessary. Unless you're willing to dig up the lawn, find the pipe, cut into it, and get direct. But that's not always so easy, so these things you really do need. Alright, before I go on to the rest of the diagram here, Glenn, we'll just finish up with our little bits and pieces over here, which is the gully grabs. I think we all know what a gully grab is. The famous ice cream scoop. So, let's have a look in here, Glenn. This is a typical gully, or not so typical in Sydney. We've got mostly clay, but the new work, yeah, this is going to catch. This is what they're designed for, catching grease or any objects like a tennis ball or something that shouldn't be in there from going around and continuing on and becoming a problem further down. So it'll catch it here. Sometimes it's so deep you can't stick your arm and pull it out. That's where this comes in handy. You push this down. Can't quite reach that. Alright, can you see that, Glenn?
Yep.
So that'll just eat up whatever's in there and then pull it out and then release it on the ground. Same process until you get it all out. While we're at this table, Glenn, we'll show you the old gurney, the Rainmaker. This here has a swivel 90 degrees. It's pretty taut. They're not always taut. A lot of the time these nozzles are floppy. Why is my nozzle not floppy? Glenn will tell you.
It's a bit of a secret, isn't it?
Well, it was until now. I'll let you know the secret. It's as simple as one of these copper washers. I don't know why they're not already built in, but I had to work it out myself with the help of Glenn. All you got to do
is ask Glenn. No, you don't have to do that.
Undo this and put the right fitting copper nozzle or copper washer in between this one and that one. And then for whatever reason, it grips and it's really hard to move. There's nothing worse than this thing flopping all around and you're trying to go straight and it just goes boom and then it shoots it up in the air. Or what these are very good for, in fact, there's no replacement for it. Okay, let's have a look over here, Glenn, and I'll give them an example. Okay, so there's a boundary trap. Boundary trap inlet. A lot of the time it won't be sweeping, it'll be just a 90 with a gentle slope going in. And let's say this is a weak point here. This is where the roots usually come in when it splits, and that's where the roots penetrate. So this is all full of roots here. This is clear, full of roots. If we want to go up here, we'd flick it in, we'd wait for the clink, down, backwards, click. We want to go up there. Thing is, we can't go up there because this is going to be full of roots, and it's just going to hit it and it's going to go down into there. So what we need to do first before we go up and service that line is we need to make a path. And that's when this tool becomes a must. So we'll flick it in, we'll bring it up on like a, I don't know what you call that degree.
45?
Yeah. Come down like that. We'd hit there, and then we'll flick it up. Like that. And then we're right where we want it to be. Then we'll pressure on, and we'll cut away all those roots. Like that.
Then I'll give you a path to go for the nozzle to follow.
Exactly. And then we'll go and service the line. But then, if we didn't have that special washer in there, that'd just flop down and we wouldn't be able to get to where we want. Or when you hit the pressure, it's just going to flick straight down. But this is a must. For anyone that wants to clean drains, without this, forget it.
You know what we call that here?
What's that?
The Ollie lance.
I like it. Anything named after me for my ego. This here, what is this, Glenn?
It's a bollard base with an insert in it.
Exactly. So the witch's hats that you see on the side of the road, this keeps it up. But it also acts as a really good safety protector.
Because it's got the weight.
It's got the weight. This is heavy. You can hear that. This will go over. Say this is the line sticking out of the ground. It's not just good safety, but if you don't want to have a sewer shower, you won't get wet. You put the hose through there, all that water's going to come back, but it's going to hit mostly around here. A little bit will come out. Sometimes you can put your foot over it like that to stop it, but it's unreal. I'll give you a little look of what it looks like. Obviously you need to take off your nozzle first, stick it through, drop it down the line, turn it on.
Also,
it can't come back at you.
A bit better on your hose too.
A lot better, yeah. Always protect your hose. While we're at it for safety and splashback, one tool that I've never gotten over the years, but I wish I had of. Same concept. Say this is a stack pipe. You take the lid off. That's where you're jetting through. But this is actually a
Hose Centurion.
A hose Centurion. So you take the cap off as you would normally, then you screw this one on. Same concept. Stick this one through first. That's going down the line. Because you'd be surprised how much water and fluids come out while you're jetting.
Not only for the water too, if you have a look at the hose going through, it misses that sharp edge in there.
Oh, it does too. So you're not going to rip the hose?
Yes.
Yeah. Good one, Glenn.
Hoses are expensive.
They are indeed. And the more you chop off, the less fun you have. All right, Glenn, so now we're coming over to the Rothenberger row pump. This thing here, it's got a little extension, comes off the edge like that, or the end. That there is for a sink. Have we got a sink, for example? Okay, you sit that over the sink, in and out, in and out. Now I've got that much suction that I can probably suck that up with it. It's got a lot of suction anyway. No, it's not working. Anyway, imagine that's a sink. Back and forth, back and forth. It's like a glorified plunger. That bit comes off the end. It then becomes a toilet plunger, but 10x. Really powerful. These things are a must. So you stick this in the toilet. Say that's the toilet. Stick it in. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it'll go whoosh. If the problem's much further down the line, it's not going to do anything. It's only for a superficial blockage. If there's paper around the bend, around the back of it. Row pump. They're a must-have. Okay, we know what this is. This is a, do I need to give a demonstration?
Why would you need something like that?
Well, because you've got a jetter in the back, it contains a lot of heat. You've got an exhaust pipe. If any debris or tools go onto the exhaust pipe, any plastics. Glenn's passing me an example here. There's my bucket. That went on the exhaust pipe. That did set a fire. I didn't have to use this. I just blew it out like that. But this is a must because fires are going to happen with heat. This is a squidgy. They do come in larger forms. There's a lot of waste to clean up in a bathroom, into the floor waste. This is better than the hands. We all know the glove, or the love glove as some of you call it. I don't know why you'd call it the love glove. I don't love it. But what I do love is that it's a gauntlet and it goes all the way up to the shoulder. They're hard to find gloves this long, because then you can get right down in the gully. Let me give you an example over here, Glenn.
Where do you get those? From a cattle station or a plumbing supply?
From a veterinarian.
Okay.
So you're going all the way down there. That's only halfway. Sometimes they go right up to there, so they're perfect for that. You won't get wet. Okay, you've got my
sponsored orange gloves.
nitrile. They're not nitrile. What are these made of?
Nitrile. Nitrile.
Yeah, they're not nitrile. There's another word for these.
Rubber.
No.
Spandex.
You're making me have to edit. What are they called? Nitro.
Not nitrile.
Not nitrile. They're not nitrile. There's another word for it.
Yeah, but what does it say on the packet?
Yeah, it says nitrile on the bucket, but they're not nitrile. There's another word for it.
Latex?
Latex gloves. We got latex gloves. They're not all equal latex gloves.
No, but they're latex free. It's bloody nitrile.
I'm going to have to edit now. We've broken our...
It's just factual information.
Okay, nitrile gloves. Nitrile gloves aren't all the same. They come in different millimeter in
Microns?
Microns. These are the best you can get. Although it doesn't look like it when I'm working on the job because they get ripped apart in no time. These are 12 mil. they're as thick as they come. So if you're going to get gloves, nitrile gloves, get the 12 mil. Great, they're the best. Okay, this here is drain acid. You've probably never seen me use drain acid. It's because I don't really use it. It's like last resort. I've probably used it 2 or 3 times in my life. It's heavy duty acid. It's not good for you. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for copper pipes. The list goes on. But every now and then, it'll get the job done. This here is tracing dye. Fluorescein, it's also known as. Pour that down there, you trace the dye. Comes out green, comes out red, comes out yellow, all different colors. This here, it's not just for the smell. Otherwise I'd wear it every day because I've got to smell it all day long. I'm used to the smell, so for me it doesn't matter. This is more for
dust, grinding
dust and fungus and H2S gas. In fact, everyone that's cleaning drains constantly should have a little H2S gas detector that goes off on their pocket. I used to have it all the time. It would go off maybe 5 times a year, and as soon as it goes off, you got to walk away, because if there's H2S around, it can be deadly, and you won't know about it until you pass out and die. Grease release. Grease release is for grease, as the word says. This is more for restaurants. So if you're clearing out a grease pit, you either put this straight into the machine, or you pour it down the waste pipe first, jet through. Restaurants should probably use half a cup of this every month just into the grease trap. It's got a special enzyme in there that breaks down grease. Wonderful stuff.
So with the grease release, they say you put it in the water tank of your machine and you apply it with a slow rotation nozzle.
Yes.
Yep.
Then you've got your isopropyl alcohol, 100%. This I spray on my hands every day. So when this runs out, I'll top it up with this, otherwise it gets fairly expensive. After each job, a little spray on the hands. And because I get a bit of a splashback, a little splashback in the face, a little spray on the face. Sometimes as I'm driving along, I'll just do it over the head, just so I know I'm covered completely by killing all those germs. Eye protection. It should be mandatory, but it's not. That's why I don't wear it. But you should. Medical alert card. This card's important. The reason why it's important is because if you're ever injured by the high pressure water, when it cuts you, it's not a normal cut. It lacerates the tissue to the point where they can't stitch it up. They're probably going to have to, on the worst case scenario, they're going to have to amputate your leg or your arm. I know it sounds bad, but that's the truth. As well as that, it's going to blow a lot of foreign germs straight into the bloodstream and into the tissue. So they're going to have to cut out a good section of your skin and then mend it up before they can work on it, because it's not a clean cut. It's just like it's a mess.
And sometimes they want to drain you out before they stitch you up too, because if you've been injected with high pressure water, you could have a lot of fluid in there.
That's right. I've heard stories about people blowing up like a balloon because it just pumps you full of water. But you don't really want to think about that, but you have to keep it in mind. It's serious business working with high pressure water. You don't muck around with it.
So if you've been injured with the high pressure jetting, you'd want to actually let whoever's looking at you know that you've been injured in a high pressure
This is the
situation.
first thing you give the ambulance people.
Yeah.
If you're still
exactly
what's the word, conscious. First aid kit. Just your basics, because you will hurt yourself. It happens. You got clay pipes that you've got to break. You stick your arm in there. There's sharp objects all around you. Building sites.
Grinders with no guard.
Always have a guard on the grinder, Glenn. Don't. What haven't we touched here? This safety tape. Whenever you got a hole in the ground, you don't want anyone to come along and fall into it. Couple of pegs, run this around. It's pretty basic safety knowledge. I think we've touched everything there on the safety department. Except for these, the witch caps. Whenever you get to a job, try and get in the habit of laying these out where the hoses are, so no one walks along and trips over them. Another good one to have, drain cleaning in progress, because a lot of the people, they're not familiar with this kind of operation. They don't know what's going on. They think it's just a hose going through, but it's not a hose. It's a hose under a lot of pressure. These things blow. When they blow, they can give you a fright. They're not going to do a lot of damage. It's just water coming out. It's just the initial bang. It'll give you more of a heart attack when you hear it going off. But it's good to let people know to be cautious. It's always good to be cautious around dangerous equipment. We are moving on to the swage tool.
In this kit, we've got 3/8, we've got quarter, we've got 1/8, and we've got 3/16 in the kit.
Oh, really? You got 4?
Yeah, and there's one missing.
I'm not used to the 1/8.
1/8 is the whip hose, which is this one.
Oh, you do whip hose repair. Wow.
You can, yeah.
Okay, so 3/8, quarter. 3/8 is off the main reel.
Yep, well for you it is.
Which is, yeah, for me it is. Which is this big boy, 3/8. If that blows, you can fix it with this one. Then you've got quarter, which comes off the mini reel. Quarter. Then you've got 3/16, which is already inside the piece there. 3/16. I've got 2 reels. One's got quarter, one's got 3/16. You can see the difference in size here. The reason I've got 3/16 and quarter is because sometimes when you're jetting from a boundary trap or just a trap straight out to the street, you'll have another square junction that drops down. It won't be sweeping like that, it'll be like a 90. I don't have an example here, but if you can imagine, that doesn't have the sloping 45 and it's going straight in and drops down. It's very hard. I'll give you an example here. Say that's a 90 not sweeping. You're going to tend to want to hit there. And then sometimes it's not going to drop down into the 90. The reason for that is because of the hose. That's why I've got a 3/16.
Well, it's also the combined length of the nozzle, the swage, everything as well.
Well, that's another reason why I use the screw on. Just the weight of the nozzle, you can already see it drops down on its own accord. Whereas with the quarter, it tends to go straight. Whereas that will find its way down where you want it to go. And if you really want to push your luck, you'll just bend it like that, push it in, and it's already bendy like that as it goes down. Now, the biggest question I get asked is, yeah, Ollie, I seen you used to use the quick connects all the time. Why did you change over to the screw? I love the quick connects. I'd like to use quick connects all the time, but because I do such a variety of drains, I need as little distance between the tip of the nozzle to the end of the swage to negotiate bends. So we've got about that. If, for example, we were to have a quick connect on this same connection, it's going to add about that much, which is not going to negotiate a square junction in the middle of the road, which I sometimes have to drop around. It's just not going to get around it. So you can see
we're probably adding a tiny bit more, so probably there.
Yeah, but that tiny bit more adds up to a lot.
And it's because this nozzle itself is quite long. So.
Yeah, and I tend to use these nozzles a lot, so if you're using everyday run-of-the-mill nozzles, it's all right. Okay, Glenn, we're going to move on to the old, I don't know what you want to call it, elephant's trunk. This is just a homemade job. They don't sell these in the shop. This here is a 50mm piece of PVC pipe. This here is ag pipe, 65mm, with a 92-inch pipe, which I've cut right down the middle of it. You'll see why I've cut it that way once I put it through the system. This is so that the camera comes straight out and moves through the system. This is for boundary traps, to get the camera around. This is the boundary trap. This is PVC, obviously. It's not clay. It's harder to get around PVC, especially 4-inch. So what you want to do is you'll push it in with this side facing forward all the way down. When you get to the bottom, or when you push it around, then you'll turn it 180 degrees there, so that this is facing that way, so that the camera comes straight out there. So we go down here. That'll hit the bottom. You keep pushing. It moves up and around. When that gets to that point there, then you move it here 180 degrees. And give it a little push. All right, Glenn, if you have a look in here, see how that's facing straight out? Now we can get the camera from there all the way around, sweeping nicely. Alright, Glenn, I'm going to climb this ladder. Can you just pull out a little bit of rope for me, please, Glenn?
Sure.
No, do I have to spin it a little bit or break off? Is it towards me? Yep, a bit more towards me. Other way. Okay, that should be enough. Yeah, I think we're out.
Oh, you're out. You made it. You've made it. Victory. Success.
Alright, so we would never have made that around naturally without this apparatus. That's just the way these things are designed, and they're not designed user-friendly for maintenance. That's just the way these plastic traps are. In we go. Thanks, Glenn. All right. Now pull this back out, you got to do another 12. And pull her out like so. Thanks, mate.
No worries.
All right. So far we've covered the overflow relief gully and the little snake choker. What we've got here is we've got a floor waste. It's usually about 100 mil, then it's a reducer to 2 inch, which is 50 mil. Now the problem with these a lot of the time is obviously it's very hard to negotiate these bends with larger nozzles and hoses. So that's when the whip hose comes in handy, which Glenn's got here. Thanks, Glenn. So you have this connected to the main reel. You would tighten this up with a spanner. Machine would be on. You turn on the pressure here. That will bring it to here. And then you will control it here. This would be the floor waste in the bathroom. They do these usually in units that are above the first floor level. You'd stick it down, you give it a quick push, like that, and then you have to sort of twist it like so, and you'll see that head move around. That would flick into there, and you wouldn't be able to push from there. In order to get it to go further down, bang, 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 push, push, bang, 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 and that would move its way forward until it goes through the system. Now, if it's 2 or 3 floors up, or 4 or 5 floors up, obviously you're not going to be able to get this gear up there. What you're going to need is the old flex shaft. So you either use this little head, or you use the proper chain knocker. You stick it in through the floor, down and around. You see it's finding its way around already by itself, just by pushing. What helps, when you push and pull the trigger, this is turning. Glenn?
Yep.
All right, mate. I'll turn it on now, see if we can get it all the way around. Get in there. Behave. Now see, there's a little lip there that's catching this hose. If that lip wasn't there, which it shouldn't be, If it was plumbed correctly, we wouldn't get caught on that. Down there, Glenn. Now you hear that noise? That is the gear that Glenn was telling us about earlier on.
What?
The clutch. And that's how you get around the floor waste. Another thing with floor wastes, if this is a floor waste on the second floor and you can get your equipment up there, a lot of the time the blockage is going to be within this area here. And if it's been a bathroom renovation, it's going to be full of concrete or slurry, tiles, you name it. And another way to clear this is quite simple. This will be connected to the mini reel, which once again you'll control from the main reel to the mini reel to the gurney. I can't quite get to it from here, so we'll use this for an example. That's the floor waste in the bathroom. The slurry, the render, whatever you want to call it, that's stuck in the middle here, that the tiles are thrown down. You'll get your gurney with the connector here, with the swivel. You'll push it down and you'll push hard. And as you push to the bottom of it, this will move with the contour of the base of the trap. Once you've got it in there, you'll blow with the trigger. Keep blowing until you're blowing everything through there, out through there. And you'll have to bang it out like that sometimes, depending on how rigid this nozzle is. All right, Glenn, so on to the next, which is direction. Say this is our house. Say there's a blockage down here. Say there's an opening here. You go in with your jetter from here. That's the best place to go from. Even better is if you had connection here, access here, you come from here. Reason being, if you go from here, you won't have all the waste coming out here. But you don't always have that luxury. Sometimes you don't even have this luxury. Sometimes you have to go from the toilet.
And then also the nozzles work better when they're not underwater.
That's true. They cut a lot better when it's clear. But let's say the blockage is here. You come through here, clear it, it goes whoosh. If that's not there, and this is here, you can flick up, come to here, which is optimal, clear it, everything drops. Let's say the blockage is here though. Now, from here, you're not going to be able to flick up and clear it from there, because that's on a sweeping line. The only way you can flick up there is if you come from downstream, if you've got the luxury of coming from downstream. There may not be an access. But let's say you do. How do you flick up to here? It's pretty easy, but you need 2 nozzles for that. I'll show you which 2 you need. Where are my nozzles gone? So we got the luxury of coming from downstream, and the way you flick up a junction we're coming up from this line here. We get to here, which is the junction line going to the right. We've got to flick this in the opposite direction so that the pressure of the water is coming out this side, which will flick it this way. If we were to come down this way, there's no way we'll flick all the way around. So only from downstream, upstream can we flick up junctions. Now, you can do the same thing with the Root Ranger, which is up there with the Mustang nozzles. You can do the same thing with the NZ range, which is like the Root Ranger but on a smaller scale. So you'll push it up here. You will have you will follow up behind the jetter. And you will position it exactly where you need to, just before the side. Make sure that this is opposite to the junction. Turn it on at whatever rate you want. Sometimes the faster you turn it on, the better, because it's going to make it flick. Flick it up there and let it do the rest of the work. You're not going to see what it's doing up there. You'll only know by the amount of roots it starts to pull back when you're watching it on the camera. So, basically, flick up junctions from downstream, no flicking up junctions from upstream. The reason why this head can flick up to the left or to the right is because you can either have this head with the triangle, which is 1, 2, 3, so it goes straight, or you can have 1, 2, 3, 3 on the tree, 3 on the side. These ones are blocked. That way it's going to go one way. So what you're going to do when you get to the junction with the camera is you're going to turn the jetter on ever so slightly, and you're going to watch where those 3 spurts of water are coming out. And you're going to position those 3 squirts of water in the opposite direction of where you want it to run. So if you want to turn right, make sure the 3 are on the left hand side. Turn it on quickly, boom, it's going to go up to the left, or to the right, sorry, or vice versa. If you want to go right, make sure that the 3 squirts are coming out to the right hand side, boom, it goes up to the left. That's the direct hit. That's the Root Ranger smaller version. Talking about Root Rangers, let's go and have a look at the Mustang range. As you can see at the top of the tree, we've got the beloved double barrel. You'll all be familiar with the double barrel. If you're not, that's a double barrel. That there is two what do you call those?
Reverse turbines.
Reverse turbines together. with a really heavy duty, heavy head, which is great for dragging sand back, for cutting roots, whatever you want to do.
For major thrusting.
For major thrusting. This is also major thrusting, but I think it's for a larger litres per minute, this one, isn't it?
Not necessarily. It can be, but you can still size that turbine to suit your machine.
Really?
So you could run that with your machine if you want.
Okay. We got this U-butte, which is both ways.
It's a large double ender.
The front is obviously weaker than the back, because if it was vice versa, it wouldn't thrust forward. This here is a sonde, the same thing that you find in the camera. So you quick connect that onto the end of your jetting hose, throw it up to the problem, and then locate it.
So that's generally used when you can't push your camera up to a certain point. You can actually jet it up there.
Too many twists and turns, whatever it is, this will get there. That's pretty much a must-have. I don't even have the must-have. This is a Root Ranger. This is the original. Beautiful piece of kit. The difference between this Root Ranger is that this is smaller. So it's going to get more places.
And not get stuck in IOs.
It won't get stuck in IOs. This does have the history of going through a line, and this is the example we're giving here. This will go through the system. Zoom, 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 zoom. It'll go up, it'll hit there, and then it'll get stuck right there. That's the sweet spot to get stuck, and you'll never pull it out. And you'll have to dig it up to pull it out.
You can get a won't get stuck extender that makes it a little bit longer in this point. That stops it from physically going in as well.
Okay. But once again, then you're taking away the...
You're making it longer,
length,
that's right.
Which is not optimal. We want opti. Glenn, I'm going to let you take over for the rest of the nozzles here and just give us a quick brief of the nozzles that we've got left on the bottom.
We've got a lot of nozzles here, so depends who you ask what they like. Bullet's pretty popular, comes in 6 rear jets, 1 forward. So a majority of the jets that we have either have rear jets for thrusting, forward jets for penetrating or cutting. Some jets will have, some nozzles will have no jets on the front, some will have 1, some will have 2, some will have 3, and it's basically the shapes. So we've got some, say that trivector, 3 jets on the front, 4 on the rear. So you can twist your hose and get it to cut open. A couple of my favourite nozzles would be the Jet Axe is always good. It's got 1 on the front, 6 on the rear. It's a nice sharp chisel, so you can get in there and twist it and open up the blockages.
You can't go wrong with the Jet Axe.
It is quite sharp though, so I probably wouldn't let the nozzle just fly down the drain. I'd slide the hose between your hands and feel what's going on until you hit the blockage, and then you could be a bit more aggressive then.
I'd like to say it doesn't negotiate bends that well either.
When you get it, it's quite sharp, but once you've used it a while, that will wear down a little bit and it'll make it a bit easier to get through.
Yep.
The Bulldog I do like. The Bulldog's got 2 oversized rear jets and 1 on the front. It's a nice little thumb shape. So it's not giving you maximum coverage, but it's giving you maximum cutting power on each jet because the jets are reduced to 2. So I do like the Bulldog. A lot of guys like the grease ball. It's a nice round head, gets everywhere, 8 rear jets.
Yeah, that's an
a lot
underrated
of people really like
nozzle.
that one.
That's an all-rounder.
There's another head which is not actually on here, which I do like. We've got them in 1/8, quarter, 3/8. So I've got another one around here that I seem to like a fair bit.
This one's for sand. This one drags sand out. It's just for sand and debris sitting at the bottom of the line. It sits flat like a spade.
So I do like these two. So this one's the ferret. So the ferret's got 2 jets on the front and they're both protected with that little cone there. So they're coming out kind of like that. So once you get into the blockage and you hit it, you can twist the hose and you can get it cutting it open. Once you kind of get that first little edge in, you've got another 3 under that first ledge that are angled quite wide that will actually open that blockage up from a different angle, even bigger. And then you've got 3 on the base that are quite narrow for thrusting. So this is a pretty good all-round nozzle. I do like that one. And then we've got the JetX, stainless JetX, which is use a ceramic turbo inside to keep the costs down. It's a forward turbine with 3 rear jets that has been kind of modified over the years. The evolution of this has got better and better, and we have a skid for this now as well that sits on the back and keeps it up off the bottom of the drain and shooting more in the center. So that's not a bad nozzle as well. So yeah.
And this one here, Glenn, this is the descaler slash whatever. That's
the Spinifex nozzle, this one here. Yeah, so it uses a water bearing, 2 rear jets, nothing on the front, hardened chains. That's for descaling cast iron pipe. Can be quite effective.
So that's a cast iron pipe there. That would have been full of rust. This thing's come through and it's flicked all the sides, taking away all that scale. Now this JetX here, Glenn.
This one?
That one there. I've got one of these. And the time that I use this, you can see the difference in length. Sometimes I can't drop into square junctions in the middle of the road. So, say this is the boundary trap. We're going around there. Then there's a 90. That's a square junction, dropping down to the mains. It's so tight there sometimes and full of roots that this head here, which is the direct hit, it's too long. It's not going to negotiate that square junction. So I'll switch over, because this is shorter in length. This will drop and I'll be able to finish it off with that. But that's when this one comes in handy especially. So there's drains that I haven't been able to clear except if I had this in my arsenal. So every head has its value. And if you can afford it, you'll have all of them. This bucket here has got quick set cement. That's also something that you shouldn't not have on board, because you'll need that 9 times out of 10 to patch up pipes that you have to break open. Glenn, what have I missed in the nozzle department? I think this is a big one.
Your third favourite nozzle?
Yes. The old spinner. This here uses a viscous fluid. This is the fluid that goes in there. There's a grub screw, which is just there where my thumb is. Screw that out with an Allen key. And then you pump it full of viscous fluid with this syringe. This cap comes off. It's the same as the warthog principle. Taking too much off there, I think. So this screws in, and then you pump it full. You got to take this little O-ring out and wait for that viscous fluid to start pouring out of there. Then you know you're full. You'll see water come out too, and air. You got to do that once every
20 hours?
20 hours, yeah?
Yeah, about that.
You'll know when to use it anyway, because it'll start making a really loud buzzing noise and it'll spin really fast, and you don't want that.
So the RotoSpin nozzle is designed with 2 rear jets. They're the 2 powerful ones that will, so the viscous fluid slows the rotation to about 3 rotations a second, which is what's going to make it spin. The fluid's going to slow down the spin, and then you have one front offset jet on the front, which is not as big as the 2 rear ones. you can clean and check your jets by unscrewing the nose cap, because the nose cap screws on opposite to the way of rotation. So you can check both rears and front through there. And then, yeah, you want to actually listen to it when you first get it. Like when you first buy them, they're full of fluid, they're ready to go, they're all tested. And if you can hear the speed that it's spinning at, once you can hear it starts to go faster and faster and faster, that's when you want to pop that O-ring out, put some oil in the syringe, sit it upside down in the vise like that, and pump the oil in from the bottom so it comes out the top and over, so you can get all the air bubbles out. And then once you're done, you push out all the dirt and everything out, and then you pop your O-ring back in, cap back on, you're ready to go again. So
it's not a great root cutter though, is it, Glenn? It's just,
no,
it's more of a...
It's more of a put it in, and
clear a path.
You don't have to spin the hose. So you're not twisting hoses, you can put it in, you can feel the blockage, you can pull a bit back off it, let it cut its way through. Am I going deeper? Yep. And then, because once the two rear jets get through, they're the ones that are going to be cutting. So, yeah, that's... I do like the roto spin. I didn't like it at first because of the bearings and the oil and all that type of stuff, but if you're not twisting hoses and you can just send it in first and let that just do everything, if it's a lazy way, people love it. So
now the other two beauties that you're probably familiar with are the CR38 and CR43. They need no explaining. They're powerful. They cut through almost anything. They are expensive. They're at the higher end.
It looks like they put the swages there so that the turbo doesn't cut the hoses.
Yeah. That's how powerful they'll cut straight through the hose. So Glenn, most people that start out with jetting think, oh yeah, I'll just stick it down, it'll go through, it'll clear it out. There must be a nozzle that clears all drains once and for all. Unfortunately not. I've been searching for the magic U-mute. It'll get everything done. There's no such thing. I used to think that the old Warthog would be the answer, which is pretty good at cutting, but not that great. Not against the turbo nozzles. Stick that on, it spins automatically, just let it sit there, let it do its thing. It's not so easy. This doesn't clean up everything. Stone Age do very good nozzles, but there's no nozzle that does everything. The NZ, or the Root Ranger, that's the little reverse. You send it down, but even this going down, you need to clear a path for it first with a penetrator. And then you make room for this to come through after you've cleared a path. Once this comes through, then it's going to cut. But you can't just let it sit there. As it goes through, there's a technique. This needs to sweep 360 around the circumference of the wall, of the pipe, all the way around. But it won't do it on its own. So as it's going in, you need to turn it like that, over and over and over again, back and forth, as it's going through. That's the head there, turning as you're turning the hose. So it's sweeping all the way around the outside of the pipe, cutting those roots. And if you've got the camera there, you hold the camera right on the spot sometimes, and you get that piece of root that's stubborn. But it just doesn't do it on its own. It doesn't. The only way it can do it on its own is if you send a big boy up like this, it's centered with skids, it'll sit in the line and it'll just work it. But even that's not foolproof because it's big, it's lumbersome, it's hard to get in, and sometimes it can get caught. So it's good, but it has its drawbacks. So once again, there's a nozzle for every job. There's no perfect nozzle. So Glenn, this is a nozzle cleaner, or really it's a welding cleaner, but I use it as a nozzle tip cleaner. Get this, undo it. You can do it on any nozzle. stick it in there, whatever's going to fit. Ding, 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 clear it out. That don't cost much, but they're a necessity. You need them. It only takes a grain of sand to stuff up your cutting. All right, on to the next table. This here is a mighty probe. Use this to push down through the ground to find a pipe, usually a clay pipe. You'll know by the feel of it when you hit it. This is made up with a special material so you don't get electrocuted if there's any electricity, any cables below. The mighty probe, that's something you should have in your kit. This here is just petrol, because you're going to run out of petrol. Sometimes you can't plan it. When you run out halfway through the job, you don't want to have to pack up, go to the petrol station, fill up again. So always have one of these on board. Silicone, don't have to talk about the silicone, we know what the silicone's for. Manhole lifting key or grease pit lifting key. Stick it in, turn it around, pull it up. Organic lifters. These also for grease pits. Stick that in the hole, turn it, screw that down, lift it up. Using leverage. You need these. Manhole chisel. Very thin, very strong. Manhole or a grease pit. Stick it in between that tiny little slot. Bang, 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 bang. It'll lift up eventually. Ply it up. Little shovel is what you need for a lot of the jobs. Just to get in the hole, dig out to get to wherever you need to. Long nose pliers, but really long. Finesse. Get down, pick up whatever you need out of there. A bit like a surgeon's tool. If I was Glenn, I'd light my cigarettes with this. I'll edit it.
Oh, you're going to edit it.
This is for drying floors around toilets, the tiles around toilets, the gates on the IOs on the stack pipes, on the cast iron stack pipes, dry it, because otherwise the silicone's not going to stick, so you need a really dry surface. That's what that's mainly for.
Mm-hmm. I've got a question.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you go to a site and you need to go to the toilet and the toilet's blocked, but you still need to go? Is that when you use that little shovel, or what do you do?
Learn to hold it in, Glenn.
Okay.
Hold it in. That's what I tell the customers when they call me. I say, I'll be there tomorrow, hold it in. Okay, 2 spanners. I don't have to say any more on 2 spanners. Okay, if you want me to say more, I'll say more. 2 spanners. 1 spanner there, 1 spanner there. It's not a quick connect, I've got to screw everything on. Cold chisel for smashing, for leveraging, you need a cold chisel. This little thing I made up myself. This is a plug, a toilet plug. The reason why I've got a toilet plug is, believe it or not, when you do the jetting, it blows up a whole heap of pressure out of toilets and it can blow up bathrooms. I've blown up so many bathrooms where I come in and it's just like a beep show. And you've got to clean it up. I'm sick and tired of cleaning them up.
So you just jam that into the toilet?
I jam that into the toilet and I know that it's not going to blow up stuff through the toilet. Sometimes I just tell them to put their toilet down, but this is extra precaution. This is actually off the end of the
honey pump?
The row pump, and I've just filled it full of silicone as a plug. But you can use a towel, whatever. That's precautionary. That's your warning. Electrical tape, I use that almost every day. That's to put on the you know, my rare earth magnets. When I lose a head down there, I'll get the rare earth magnet and I'll tie it on the end of the hose as I push it down, and retrieve it. I'll do it with a bit of tape. I know you guys have got rare earth magnets here, haven't you, on the end of the thing? Have you got one here to show?
So you can use them on the nozzle I showed you before. So there's a flat surface on this jetpack nozzle, and I think the new versions of these are going to have a little bit of a groove cut out, so around a rare earth magnet actually sits into that groove.
Beautiful. That's what you want. All right, Glenn, I think that's everything covered on this table, mate.
Drill grinder.
Oh yeah, grinder. I don't know what happened to the safety thing. It must have fallen off.
Yep, just like your P
But grinder. I've got an all-rounder there. That cuts through everything. It's got the diamond tip. Drill.
Multis.
We know the old drill. This has been through everything and it still goes. I'd like to say it's waterproof, but it's not. But you've seen where it's been. Makita, you can't go wrong. Remember, I'm not sponsored by any of these things. I'm not even sponsored by Glenn. This is just so you know what's required to clear a drain. All right, Glenn, toilet. Block toilet.
She's blocked.
Now, a lot of the time, people say, oh, why don't you remove the toilet? I'd like to remove the toilet, but a lot of the time the toilets are concreted in, here and here. Without smashing it out and renewing the toilet, there's no way to get through. The only way is to drill a hole right there, 60 mil, with a hole saw. And then you plug it up with a 50 mil bath plug that fits perfectly in a 60. That's a 50 mil, but it comes out to about 62 or 63. I'll show you how it works. Always use ear protection because it gets loud. And don't breathe in this silica dust because it's really bad for your lungs. Me, I like to hold my breath. But if you're going to do it properly, put the mask on. Now when you get to this point, Glenn, I've found the best thing to do is just go click and the thing will come out like that. And then finish it off. Must be a bit blunt. I'll try a different one. Yeah, it was blunt. Then you'll dry it off after you've finished going through with the jetter, clearing the line. Put this little baby on. Grab your silicone, fill her up. You have to put extra silicone because, reason being, you're on an angle because it's not flat. You got to fill that space where it's sitting up a bit high. give her a little push down, go around with your old finger, like so, and that should cover all of it. And the next time it blocks, the next plumber can come, pull it out, and go from there.
Nice. Because the water's not actually going onto the top of the pipe anyway. It's just flowing over that bottom bend. Exactly. You can use the toilet straight away after doing that. Just don't tell Bill I did that to his toilet, please, mate. No worries, I'll keep that a secret. All right. Last thing we're going to show is something we've already touched on, and that's going left or right with the nozzles, just so you know what I mean, going left or right. Hook this onto the tap there if I can, please, Blaine. Just for something different, we'll use the old penetrator to go through them. You're going to get around that bend? I think so. I don't know how well that bend is sticky taped on. Let's hope we get around it, Glenn. Yeah, otherwise we might have to use a Mustang nozzle. Well, I can always use the spinner. I know the spinner will get around it. Alright, I'm going to start her up. And by the way, this is not the correct startup procedure for a Jetta. It's not? No, of course not. Why not? Safety? No, it doesn't matter, unless you want to go through the correct startup procedure. What other procedure is there? Well, you don't set up your mini reel first. Why not? Because your Jetta is... So you're basically going to start your car and just drive straight away, flat out, under full load. What about giving your Jetta a chance to warm up and, you know, all that stuff? I know you're busy, but... No, this is how I start every job. Yeah, well, this is probably not how you should start every job. How would you start it? Probably how I showed you when I gave you the induction that you were listening. Okay. We're going to use a remote. No. Well, here we are. Okay, we're going to use the remote. Okay, click it on. You can have that open. Have it open? Yeah, there's no pressure there. Okay. You warmed up yet, mate? No, not yet. Does it matter? No, we're doing a video, Tom's buddy. Just go for it. You want to hold that hose? Just so something doesn't happen. Are you good? No. If you're going to start like that, we can't use this hand. I'll use the hand that I know will get around it. Yeah. That won't get around it straight away. I don't think it will. In fact, I prefer to use it manually. You can leave the ball valve open. I'm not going to pressurise it. No, you can. Pressurise it. No, it's off. It's in your hand. It's always in my hands. Alright. Alright, open the valve. Right. No, I've got the pressure control here. Turn it on. Slowly.
could probably push your hose through there and get the nozzle out if you want to go left and right, maybe.
Well, I'll show them on this cast iron. So Glenn, now I'm just going to give a quick demonstration. This is if we're going towards the property. There's the house there. We've got access down here, but we need to go up the side junction to the right. We're going to have the camera in there. We're going to look for the three on the tree, wherever they're coming out, and do it in the opposite of the right, on the left, so it goes right. So you'll see as I go slowly here.
Right on.
There's the three on the side. If we want to go that way, they've got to be on that side. And we've got to shoot it that way at full pressure. So, if you have a look here, Glenn, we want to go right. Got to make sure that those three are coming in from the left. And vice versa. We'll turn it 180. If we wanted to go on the left, we'd go right with the three on the tree. Straight up the junction. Now if we want to do the Route Ranger, same story, different nozzle, same principle, opposite direction, water flow to get up the line. So if we've got it there, it's going to shoot to the right. And then if we want to do it to the left, we'd turn it, position the camera to make sure we're on the right track. Like so. What happened there?
Remote control.
Bloody remote control.
You own it.
Alright, if it's so good, start her up again without touching the machine.
Okay. I just turned the key off.
Ah.
Just for the buzzer. Ah. You ready?
Yep.
Ready?
Yep.
You ready for more pressure?
Yep. Make some rain, as they say. Look at those beautiful clouds I made, Glenn.
Oh, good.
I couldn't have done it without you, mate.
Hold on. No worries, Ollie. No worries. Hope you learned something.
Okay, let's see if you can turn it off with the remote. Wow, look at that. Technology, eh?
What remote?
Wow,
Stop.
how good is that? All right, last but not least, we got the vacuum, didn't we?
No, we never talked about the vacuum.
The wet vac. You need a wet vac because you need to suck out the water from under a sink, from in a grease pit, from when you make spillages in the house. Suck it up with the wet vac. Another thing about wet vacs is never get a stainless steel one because they rust. Always get 100% plastic. You don't want the stainless steel ones.
Yeah, because the stainless ones won't melt on the exhaust either.
True that, Glenn. All right, before I forget, Glenn
Yo.
is going to give us a demo
So your camera head.
with the Ridgid locator.
So your camera head's in the drain.
Yep.
With the budget Chinese cameras, the son's always on. You don't have to turn it on and off.
Okay.
So when you turn your scout locator on, straight away it will tell you what frequency you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Which you're on 30. You're on 33 hertz, right? So now I need to go into the menu.
Yep.
Menu, and I need to untick 33 hertz.
Yep.
And then I need to find 512 hertz, which is there. Tick that one.
Yep.
And I just make sure the other frequencies are all unticked.
Yep.
Because we don't want any interference.
Okay.
And then we go back to where we were. And then so you could see quickly 512 came up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can have a little bit of volume if you want.
Okay.
So what I would do is wherever the drain entrance is, what I would do first is I would put the locator up.
Yep.
Looking at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the numbers in the top corner. That's all I'm really looking at the moment.
Yep.
I'll just do a circle.
Okay.
And I'm watching for those numbers to increase as high as they go. So when I get to wherever the sond is,
Yep.
I'm at 1000.
You know you're in the right
I
direction.
know I'm in the right direction. So 1000, now I go to the ground.
Okay.
And I'll do the same thing. I'll just walk in the same direction and I'm just watching those numbers to increase.
Okay.
So increasing 1200, 13, 14, 15, 17, 2, 23, 25, 283, 32. I'm dropping off. So I know that when I've reached the highest number,
Yep.
I was in the right position.
Okay.
So when I'm in the right position, now what I'm looking for is inside the circle, and I'm looking for the poles. Because what happens with a sond, it sends out a frequency of like a figure 8. So you have the equator and you have the north and south poles. So
Okay.
that's what these are for marking the poles. So when you get around this area, we're looking for a pole. There's one there. So see that pole in the screen?
Yep.
So then I would mark that being the south pole. And then I find the north pole, which will be up here somewhere. North pole, there it is.
And it's got to be halfway between the two.
So then I look for the equator line, which is there. That's the equator.
Okay.
And you can hear the sound change. And then it also, the scout says to twist here. So if you don't want to twist, you can actually force and give and I think it gives the depth, 48.
Okay.
Or you can twist it so that it lines up and it would say 43, 44. So then you get your pink paint and you do ready or whatever, and then that's it. You know, we're pretty much exactly on the camera head there.
Beautiful.
So that's how the Scout works. You can use it for different frequencies for line tracing and other things, but yeah, that's what most plumbers will use it for. And if you do want to figure out where a drain goes, you can push locate, push 5 meters, locate, push 5 meters, locate, and then you can have some dots to show you where you're actually going if you're trying to find like an inspection opening down in the yard that you can't find.
All
you
right.
know? So that's
Cool.
it.
Thanks, Glenn.
No
That's the
worries.
Navi track. Last but not least, Glenn, I just want to show them probably one of the most important tools. And that's the old
Trusty torch.
torch, just with a clip on the end there. This torch here is a Polytac Streamlight from America, US. I had an O-light before. Many years I used O-light. I like the Streamlight because it's got the button at the back. I just like back buttons there. This here is from a fishing tackle shop. It's called a lanyard, large coil lanyard. So Toit Tether is Toit is the company that make these. It's got metal in there, it lasts forever, And you can dangle it down the shafts like you see I do, and click it to your belt, and you can see everything. Without this, you're pretty much guessing because it's in the dark. So torch is number one. And we couldn't have done it without the gang, the drain gang. Thanks, boss. How'd I do? Better still, how did Glenn do? Glenn did wonderful. How did I do? Yeah, not so good, boss. Yeah, all good, guys. All good in the end, sort of. Not really.